Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we have another preview in store and this time it's the Strade Bianche. As always, I'm joined by Mr. Critical himself, Ewan. How are you, Ewan? And Strade Bianche, this was actually our first preview show we ever did last year. Strade Bianche, is it one of your favorite races? I absolutely love this race.
Well, for me, it's the sixth monument. It's such a brilliant race. We don't see much of dirt roads elsewhere in the season on this level. And through beautiful Tuscany, it's phenomenal to watch. Last year in particular was a fantastic addition. It was the first race we had back after the restart. And in summer, we had the beautiful shots of the dust there on Saturday.
Anyways, without further ado, let's get on to our history clip. Strade Bianche is the youngest of the races that we refer to as classics. Strade Bianche translates to white roads, and the race has become a favorite amongst fans and riders alike because of the race's unique dirt roads that spread over 11 sectors of the race. The first edition of the race was back in 2007 and was won by the Russian Alexander Kolovnov, and Fabian Cancellara is the rider who holds the record for the most wins in the race with 3 in total, winning in 2008, 2012 and his final year as a pro in 2016. The organizers of Strade Bianche wanted to honor Fabian Cancellara and even dedicated a sector of the race's famous white roads to Fabian Cancellara, and this was the Monte Santa Maria section, which is the 8th out of the 11 total gravel sectors in the race, which now has the name Fabian Cancellara on it as well. A close second is Mikhail Kwiatkowski, who won in both 2014 and 2017. Incidentally, the youngest winner of this young race was Moreno Moza back in 2013, where he was 22 years and 68 days old, and he also remains the only Italian winner of this race to date. Anyways, Ewan, has the route for the 2021 edition changed much compared to last year's route?
Well, we have 11 sectors this year. It's 184 kilometers long from Siena back to the iconic Piazza del Campo. 63 kilometers of gravel on the stage, the longest of which come at the middle of the stage with 80 kilometers in. They're 12 kilometers in length. The toughest sector of them all, though, is the Ponte del Garbo, which is the last of the 3. It's very, very steep and tough to negotiate. But as I said, that iconic finish to Piazza del Campo, the very, very steep, narrow uphill test. And that's where we will see the coronation of the 15th Strade Bianche winner.
So anyways, Ewan, how do you think the chances are of Wout Van Aert winning this race this year again?
It's a younger team than the one that he rode with last year, so that might make things a little bit different. But nevertheless, I think he definitely is in with a shout. He has had more rest since the cyclocross season than the man we're going to talk about later on, Mathieu van der Poel. So I think that rest will come in handy, and he's going to be very motivated, like last year, coming out of a big break to win the first race back. And he's got very good pedigree here. 2018, he finished on the podium. 2019, he finished on the podium, and 2020, he was the champion. So he's got a very good track record here. And if it's going to be rainy, I'm sorry, he's one of the best cyclocross riders in the world. There's no one better to have on that day.
So anyway, from one cyclocross superstar to the next, Mathieu van der Poel is here again. He unfortunately disappointed last year. He wasn't quite at the same form that we think he is now this stage of the season. He, of course, took that win in the UAE Tour and was very strong in Kuurne-Brussels-Kuurne. So do you see Mathieu van der Poel improving on his first-time result last year in Strade Bianche?
I think he has the potential to do very well. Copy-paste what I said about Wout van Aert, about the mud and being a cyclocross star, and put it here. Mathieu van der Poel's made for this finale. The roads into the Piazza del Campo at the finish, they're in the 15 to 20% gradients. That screams Van der Poel. And if he can play the sort of tactical game where he goes off with about 50, 60k to go, this is one of the courses that lets you do it. He really is a force to be reckoned with when he pulls that trick. The one thing is the team. It's not the strongest team. I'm looking forward to seeing Gianni Vermees from Belgium ride this race. But Van der Poel is definitely going to be up there. And it's going to be good fun to see the reigning Dutch champion ride yet another Strade Bianche. And hopefully we can get a textbook Van der Poel Van Aert battle.
So, of course, we might as well go to the last star of cyclocross that we also anticipate to have in this race, and that is, of course, Tom Pidcock, who did phenomenally well in his second outing with Ineos Grenadiers in Kuurne-Brussels-Kuurne, finishing third. Yeah, that team provisionally looks like he's going to be joined by Egan Bernal and Pavel Sivakov. But yeah, it's kind of the same thing you said before, that the parcours here is so well suited for cyclocross riders. And we've seen Zdeněk Štýbar take the win as well, a former world champion himself.
Exactly. Pidcock is light enough that he's going to do well on the climbs. To get away from them all. It's just a question of whether he is better than Van der Poel and Van Aert, because they're quite similar in their attributes, having a good acceleration, good on the hills, very good bike handlers. They're very similar in those departments. Ineos are bringing a strong team. I'm not expecting much from Egan Bernal, but I am expecting something from Pipo Ganna if he comes to this race. We're expecting him to be a Tirreno, so it would make sense if he starts Strade Bianche. He will be very, very valuable in that department. Also, Michał Kwiatkowski might be starting for Ineos, a man who's won this race on 2 occasions. He could offload his knowledge and expertise onto Tom Pidcock. But the young Brit is definitely someone to look out for, and if the Kuurne-Brussels-Kuurne result is anything to go by, he's certainly got good legs on him. But if we're talking about a team performance, it's hard to look past the Kuurne Quickstep. They're working for the 2019 champion and the reigning world champion Julian Alaphilippe, but they're also bringing former Strade Bianche winner Zdeněk Štýbar and the winner of Omloop Het Nieuwsblad, Davide Ballerini of Italy. And to Kuurne, it's hard to look past them in this race. They play it very, very well tactically in the past. I'm thinking particularly in 2016 when Gianluca Brambilla was a pawn to try to get Zdeněk Štýbar his second win. But this year, Julian is still looking good. I know he didn't get the win in Omloop, but he was working for Ballerini. He managed to attack away and look very strong at Omloop Het Nieuwsblad, and also a strong mountain ride at Tour de la Provence, despite a crash early on in that race. We are seeing the Julian Alaphilippe of old back, and he does like this route. And it'd be fantastic to see the rainbow jersey win this race. We've never seen it before, and I think if there's someone to do it, Julian Alaphilippe is that man.
Of course, the rider that was kind of the tandem with Julian Alaphilippe in the 2019 season, that was Jakob Fuglsang, and he actually did look like he was going to take it last year when he put in a very strong attack, but eventually that faded. But Jakob Fuglsang, he stated that he's no longer going for GCs in Grand Tours, so he's completely focusing on these shorter stage races and even more the one-day races. He's already won Il Lombardia and Liège-Bastogne-Liège, come second already, as mentioned in 2019. So do you think the Dane, the aging Dane now, he is getting a bit old, but do you think he has a chance of doing something in this race this year?
Fuglsang is always someone to watch out for, and judging from his form in 2019, he peaked for this part of the season almost. And I think he could replicate it. We haven't seen all that much from Jakob Fuglsang this year so far. He's been keeping a low profile. A decent result at Tour des Alpes-Maritimes et du Var. That's something, but it depends who else lines up in the team. Lutsenko has a good record here. Fabio Follini could also have a good ride on his day. But Fuglsang, you could never second guess him, and he's good at Strade Bianche. What can I say?
So your favorite team as well, formerly known as Sunweb, Team DSM. They're bringing interesting team, another cyclocross rider, Joris Nieuwenhuis, and also the newly acquired Romain Bardet, who finished second in the 2018 edition. On top of that, they've also got their 2 Danes who have both won Paris Tours in their careers already, Søren Kragh Andersen and Kasper Petersen as well. This is a really strong team if you look at it from a classics perspective. Do you think they could potentially be the dark horse in this race?
Definitely. DSM have come with a lot of options. Romain Bardet rode the race really well in 2018. I know he's got a new team, he's got a different training plan, a different direction, but he's just come from an altitude camp in Tenerife, so I'd like to think that he's going to be feeling quite good. We didn't see much from him in the Classics weekends, but that's not his style of racing. I think the man to look out for here is Søren Kragh Andersen. He looked off the mark at the weekend at Omloop Het Nieuwsblad and also Kuurne-Brussels-Kuurne, but this profile does suit Søren Kragh Andersen. He's a feisty rider. He does like to attack and so forth. And if DSM can work together like they have in the past to sort of be the tactical wild card, then I think they have a good shout. Even Joris Nieuwenhuis is a card to play here. I think Casper Peterson might struggle with the hills and so forth, but DSM, if they can be a nuisance tactically, they'll definitely show their face. If not, I hate to say it, but I don't think they're going to contend. Nevertheless, this wouldn't be a cycling day in preview if I didn't talk about Groupama-FDJ. And this team, they come in with many options as well. Valentin Madouas, I think, will be their leader. I think he's bouncing into good form. Rudy Mollard as well looked very good at the steep finishes at the Tour des Alpes-Maritimes et du Var. And if they bring Thibaut Pinot, who's supposed to come, that's going to be a formidable lineup for them. Stefan Kung is also lining up here. We haven't seen him race this style of race, a kind of hilly classic like this, but the way he rides cobble races as of late should stand him in good stead. And similarly, the Luxembourg champion, Kevin Genietz, he looked extremely good at Omloop Het Nieuwsblad. I'm going to be cheering on Groupama, and I hope that we could have their first win at Strade Bianche, or even a podium finish.
So staying on the French notion, Greg Van Avermaet for AG2R Citroën is of course coming here. He's done phenomenally well in the past few years. In 2016, he finished 6th. In 2017, he finished 2nd. 2018, we'll gloss over that, he was 34th. 2019, he was 6th again, and then 2020, he was 8th. So definitely a race that he really enjoys and has a lot of success with. It comes down to the parcours as well, being not quite as tough as cobblestone races, but definitely tougher than a normal usual race. Do you think it'll have a factor here that we are going back into the springtime and not in the summer like we had it last year? And do you think that will change it up a bit and could potentially hamper some of the riders that did well last year?
Definitely. I think 2020, we do have to look at it from that angle where it was in a different part of the season, near to the Tour de France, and fresh out the blocks with no racing for 4 months. This year, it's different. It's very different. Back in the normal slot, the weather will be very different. But besides that, I do think Greg Van Avermaet has a better shot this year. He's been teeing up quite well. AG Desert have been looking good as a team, and as a cohesive squad in the past couple races. He hasn't had that big result yet, but this might be it. I also want to see how some of the other riders on that team do, most notably Clément Champoussin and Aurélien Paré-Peintre, who have already taken quite big classics results in the south of France races in 2021. He's bringing Clément Venturini and Andrea Vendrame. Don't forget that Clément Venturini is the reigning French cyclocross champion. So if it gets muddy and so forth, don't be surprised to see Venturini up there.
UAE Team Emirates are also coming. They, of course, had David Formolo last year, who finished on the podium. And so far, they've also got Tadej Pogačar on the start list. He, of course, did it last year as well. And then last year, Tadej Pogačar was actually 13th in this race. And do you think the newly crowned UAE Tour winner and current Tour de France champion has a better chance at winning this race? Or do you think it's still too early in the season? But he is definitely on form after we saw him at the UAE Tour, where he actually set the fastest time up Jabil Hafid as well.
Yeah, he's a man on form right now, and he's climbing very, very well. If Liège-Bastogne-Liège and the World Championships were anything to go by, he can do a hilly classic. So Strada should be okay for Tadej Pogačar, but I'm being a little bit cautious in saying that because he's probably going to want to protect his legs for Tirreno and later races if he lines up for those. So I don't know what to expect. I'm almost expecting Davide Formolo almost to be more of a leader here. He looked decent at the UAE Tour, but it's a less risky game to play because Pogačar doesn't want to peak too soon or mess up his training plan, which he has for aiming at GC races.
So anyways, just before we go into our predictions, other riders of note that we haven't really talked about, Matej Mohoric is coming here with Bahrain victorious. We also got Michael Woods, who's presumably going to be the captain for Israel Stardom Nation. We also have Trek Segafredo, who are bringing a very exciting team with former podium finisher Gianluca Brambilla, Matthias Jensen, the surprise package of the UAE Tour, the 20-year-old, Bauke Mollema as well, and Tim Wellens, of course, of Lotto Soudal is also coming. And for Team Archaic Samsic, Diego Rosa, who many of you might not recall, actually finished 10th in last year's edition. So definitely a lot of interesting riders coming for sure. And Peter Sagan, who's a former runner-up in this race, is also going to be here. So anyways, Ewan, now we get to our favorite part of the show, our predictions. And yes, last week we did Omloop Het Nieuwsblad. and you predicted basically the Kern-Brussels-Kern podium instead of the Omloop Het Nieuwsblad podium.
Yeah, that was a shame, to be honest. I actually put a bet on Anthony Turgis as well, so that's frustrating. I should have thought about it, but nevertheless, Strade Bianche, and I'm going to say third place goes to Mathieu van der Poel of Alpecin-Phoenix. I think second place is going to go to Wout Van Aert of Jumbo-Visma, and first place will go to Julian Alaphilippe, the reigning world champion. He will strike out for glory at the Piazza del Lake and take his second Strade Bianche title.
I think Wout Van Aert will continue his 100% record of finishing on the podium and finish third. And then second place, we're going to have the Curse of the Rainbow jersey strike again with Julian Alaphilippe. And then we're going to have the reverse of what we had in the 2019 season and have Jakob Fuglsang victorious at the top.
It's always Jakob Fuglsang. Every race Jakob Fuglsang starts at. He is your pick.
Why didn't we do a Il Lombardia preview?
Because it's an irrelevant race. No one cares about it.
So anyways, for this bonus round this week, we are going to go for where will Peter Sagan finish in this year's Strade Bianche. I will just mention that last year, the three-time world champion didn't actually finish the race. So, Ewan, I'll let you go first.
Well, I might have amnesia. I can't remember the last time Peter Sagan contended a Strade Bianche. But I'm going to say he finishes 25th, but I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't finish.
I'm going to say the three-time world champion and former runner-up is going to finish 16th in this race. Anyways, that's it for this week's preview. As always, make sure that you join us for the streams and let us know in the comments down below what your predictions are. And of course, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you all very soon again.